In the contemporary spectacle of royalty, Harry and Meghan have established a distinctive presence, not as cherished figures preserving royal traditions, but as unwavering self-promoters who exploit victimhood for financial gain. Their narrative has shifted from two individuals seeking independence from a traditional institution to a case study in how to estrange family, nation, and even their most loyal supporters. What is particularly remarkable is the rapid collapse of their claims, such as the assertion that Archie was denied a title due to his race, which was swiftly disproven by historical context. Meghan's emotional account of being silenced by the palace was contradicted by her own frequent media appearances. Yet, despite the harm caused by their words, Harry and Meghan showed no sign of regret. Instead, they intensified their efforts, using the interview as a platform for their subsequent projects, including a Netflix documentary, a Spotify podcast, and Harry's forthcoming memoir. At the heart of Harry and Meghan's brand lies a singular, unifying truth. The Sussexes have built a highly profitable empire by leveraging their connection to the royal family. Despite their constant criticisms of the institution, they have had no qualms about using their royal titles to secure lucrative contracts. They have signed multi-million-dollar deals with companies such as Netflix, Spotify, and Penguin Random House, all centered on their willingness to divulge royal secrets. However, as the appeal of their story begins to fade, their value as media commodities is diminishing. Their Netflix docuseries, which initially attracted significant attention, was quickly criticized for its lack of depth and repetitive complaints. Meghan's Spotify podcast similarly failed to impress, with critics labeling it self-centered and superficial. Harry's memoir, which was marketed as a collection of explosive revelations, turned out to be little more than a petty airing of grievances, from complaints about his frostbitten private parts to recounting trivial sibling conflicts. Spare highlighted Harry's apparent inability to move past his past. It is no surprise that the public is becoming increasingly disillusioned with the Sussexes' antics. Recent polls indicate that public approval for them has sharply declined in both the UK and the US, with many perceiving them as privileged complainers rather than sympathetic figures. Their continuous criticisms of the royal family, combined with apparent hypocrisy and a refusal to accept responsibility, have driven away even their most dedicated followers. In contrast, the British public's trust in the monarchy remains strong, primarily due to the stable and dedicated leadership of Prince William and Princess Catherine. Unlike Harry and Meghan, the Waleses exemplify a sense of duty and service, earning them widespread respect and admiration. At the core of Harry and Meghan's missteps lies a fundamental misunderstanding of the importance of discretion. The royal family's enduring appeal is rooted in its restraint, its ability to endure scandals with dignified silence rather than engaging in public disputes. In stark contrast, Harry and Meghan's tendency to publicize every complaint, regardless of its significance, has undermined their credibility. Their approach, which often relies on public criticism and implied threats, may yield short-term gains but lack sustainability in the long term. As the public grows increasingly tired of their perpetual victimhood, the Sussexes find themselves on increasingly unstable footing, their relevance diminishing with each passing day. While Harry and Meghan continue to pursue media attention and cling to their fading prominence, the royal family remains steadfast, unshaken, and focused on its duties. Despite his imperfections, King Charles has demonstrated a capacity for adaptation, while Prince William and Princess Catherine embody the vision of a modern, resilient monarchy. From their explosive interview with Oprah to Netflix's overly dramatic documentary and Harry's self-pitying memoir Spare, the Sussexes have repeatedly proven themselves to be experts in exaggeration and carefully curated narratives. However, beneath the facade of moral outrage lies a far less flattering reality. Harry and Meghan have increasingly come to be seen as opportunists, prioritizing fame over integrity and showing a willingness to sever ties for fleeting moments in the spotlight. Ultimately, their story serves as a cautionary example of what transpires when entitlement, unchecked ambition, and a refusal to accept responsibility intersect. They may have once aspired to revolutionize the monarchy, but ultimately they have only managed to reveal their own shortcomings. For the British public, this may well be the most gratifying outcome of all. While the monarchy endures as a centuries-old institution symbolizing resilience and adaptability, Harry and Meghan appear intent on testing both its limits and the public's patience. What was once framed as a challenge to the establishment and a quest to speak their truth has devolved into a relentless display of entitlement and self-delusion as their moment in the spotlight steadily fades. Meghan's entry into the royal family came with great promise but delivered little beyond discord. Despite her repeated claims of being misunderstood, what becomes increasingly evident is her unsuitability for the role she so eagerly pursued. Meghan sought the splendor without the sacrifice, the titles without the traditions, and the prestige without adhering to the protocols. Her insistence on being perceived as a global celebrity rather than a working royal highlights her fundamental misinterpretation of what the monarchy represents. This isn't Hollywood. The role of a royal demands selflessness, dedication, and above all, discretion, qualities Meghan has shown little interest in developing. Instead, she has used her position as a springboard for personal gain, leaving a trail of disruption in her wake. Consider her numerous post-Megxit projects glossy, self-indulgent ventures that do more to elevate her profile than to advance meaningful causes. From superficial podcast episodes disguised as feminist commentary to Netflix productions riddled with inaccuracies, Meghan has consistently placed her own narrative above authenticity. If Meghan is the architect of their brand, Harry is the faltering foundation. Stripped of the structure and privilege that once protected him, he has shown himself to be unprepared for life outside the royal bubble. His identity now seems entirely defined by grievances, with every interview, book, and podcast serving as yet another stage to blame others for his unhappiness. Let's be clear, Harry's struggles aren't rooted in being trapped by the monarchy, as he so melodramatically claimed during the Oprah interview. They arise from his refusal to accept accountability for his actions. His relentless attacks on his family, particularly his brother William, reek of bitterness and envy. And the most striking irony? Despite their claims of seeking independence, both Harry and Meghan seem incapable of moving on without dragging the institution and the people they left behind into the spotlight. Despite his relentless attempts to discredit the monarchy, Harry's relevance remains entirely dependent on his royal connections. Without the title of prince preceding his name, his public outbursts would scarcely make an impact. He denounces the institution while simultaneously clinging to its privileges, a glaring contradiction that has not gone unnoticed. When Netflix signed a lucrative multi-million-dollar deal with Harry and Meghan, they undoubtedly anticipated groundbreaking content. Instead, they were handed a superficial docuseries offering little more than rehashed complaints and staged displays of authenticity. The Sussex's failure to deliver meaningful content epitomizes their broader shortcomings. Rather than using their platform to champion significant causes, they have chosen to indulge in shallow narratives. What could have been an opportunity to inspire devolved into a self-serving vanity project. The series focused on their perceived victimhood, casting them as misunderstood heroes. Far from a compelling documentary, it became an elaborate PR exercise, one that ultimately backfired as audiences quickly saw through the facades. And then there's Harry, the self-proclaimed Duke of Delusion. His continued reliance on grievances and accusations only underscores his inability to step beyond the shadow of the institution he so vehemently criticizes. Once the cheeky, mischievous prince beloved for his charm, Harry has transformed into a bitter shadow of his former self. His exhaustive list of grievances, detailed and spare, ranges from the petty to the downright ridiculous complaints about being given a smaller room than William and lamentations over media attention he actively courts. Harry's penchant for self-pity appears boundless. The Sussex's strategy hinges on a singular, predictable tactic weaponizing victimhood. Whether accusing the monarchy of racism or lamenting their treatment by the press, they have persistently cast themselves as martyrs in a narrative of their own making. The issue, however, is that their claims often crumble under scrutiny. The much publicized racism allegation from their Oprah interview, for example, was later backpedaled in a remarkably unconvincing manner. Their assertions of being silenced are at odds with their relentless media appearances. Even their complaints of financial hardship, laughable in light of their extravagant lifestyle, come across as little more than a farce. Ultimately, their narrative of suffering and persecution does little to garner sympathy, as their actions continually expose the contradictions at its core. The Sussexes have perfected the art of portraying themselves as victims while simultaneously flaunting their wealth and privilege. It's a tricky balancing act, but one that's increasingly wearing thin. While Harry and Meghan flounder in their attempts to remain relevant, the royal family has quietly carried on. Their silence speaks volumes. For all his perceived flaws, King Charles has shown remarkable restraint in handling his rebellious son and daughter-in-law, but it is William who truly embodies the strength and stability the monarchy requires. William's calm, non-confrontational approach to the Sussex drama has been a masterclass in leadership. By refusing to engage in public disputes or entertain their antics, he has demonstrated exactly why he is the heir apparent. The British public has taken notice, rallying behind William and Catherine as the true faces of the monarchy's future. It's not just William's actions, but his character that sets him apart. Unlike his brother, William has shown the ability to balance duty with personal happiness, earning him respect as both a leader and a man of integrity. His partnership with Catherine stands as a testament to his grounded nature and his ability to prioritize what truly matters. In stark contrast, one of the most glaring aspects of Harry and Meghan's post-royal life is their desperate attempt to hold on to influence. They've tried to position themselves as global thought leaders, but their lack of focus and credibility undermines their ambitions. Their initiatives often feel hollow and performative. Meghan's feminist rhetoric rings hollow when viewed alongside her obsession with status and titles. Similarly, Harry's environmental activism appears disingenuous, especially given his frequent use of private jets. The Sussexes have repeatedly failed to understand that true influence is built on substance, not spectacle. Their brand, founded on controversy and victimhood, is simply unsustainable in the long term. Perhaps the most telling criticism of their strategy is the public's fading interest. Polls indicate their popularity is plummeting, particularly in the UK, where their constant attacks on the monarchy have alienated even their former supporters. The most shocking aspect of Harry's behavior is his glaring lack of self-awareness. He has managed to weaponize every part of his life, transforming his privileged upbringing into a sob story that conveniently overlooks the many advantages he has enjoyed. For someone who claims to despise the media, he's remarkably skilled at using it to his benefit, whether it's airing his family's dirty laundry or granting exclusive interviews to anyone willing to pay for them. Even in the US, where they were initially embraced, the tide is beginning to turn. Americans are starting to see through the facade, recognizing the Sussexes for what they truly are: opportunists who have built a brand by tearing others down. The British monarchy has endured wars, scandals, and upheavals, and it will survive Harry and Meghan. The strength of the institution lies in its ability to adapt, all while staying rooted in tradition, a balance that King Charles and Prince William have managed to strike with impressive skill. The Sussexes' antics, though damaging in the short term, will eventually fade into irrelevance. What will endure is the quiet dignity of a monarchy that has withstood far greater challenges. The entire saga of Harry and Meghan has resembled a reality show gone horribly wrong, a train wreck that's hard to look away from. It's astonishing how two individuals, once granted unparalleled opportunities and a global platform, have managed to squander it all in such a spectacularly self-indulgent way. Let's not sugarcoat things. Harry and Meghan have turned victimhood into their main currency, and in doing so, they've alienated not only the British public, but also a growing portion of their original fan base abroad. Harry's transformation from a once beloved prince to an embittered exile is one of the most tragic and perplexing arcs in recent royal history. It's hard not to feel a sense of pity for him. Up to a point, one can feel sympathy for Harry. Here is a man who, despite his numerous advantages, seems entirely incapable of taking responsibility for his choices. His constant attempts to blame the institution, his family, and the media for his unhappiness ring hollow, especially when you consider his privileged upbringing and the immense goodwill he once enjoyed. Then there's Meghan, whose entry into the royal family was initially seen as a force for modernization, only for her to bring nothing but chaos and division. Her penchant for self-promotion, coupled with her relentless need to control the narrative, has turned her into a deeply polarizing figure. It's truly ironic that someone who claimed to value privacy has spent the majority of her post-royal life airing every possible grievance to anyone who will listen. Their infamous Oprah interview epitomized their performative victimhood. Watching them cast aspersions on the very family that gave them their platform felt like watching petulant teenagers rebelling against their parents. The most frustrating aspect of their accusations is that when examined more closely, they often crumble under the weight of their own inconsistencies. Take, for instance, their retraction of the racism claim. What Harry later tried to downplay as a misunderstanding was, in reality, a masterclass in gaslighting the public. Even more maddening is their apparent belief that they are somehow champions of truth and justice. Their Netflix docuseries, rather than offering thoughtful commentary or meaningful content, devolved into a vanity project filled with inaccuracies and contrived moments of supposed authenticity. The whole affair felt more like a public therapy session than a documentary dressed up as a cinematic venture. For all their claims of oppression, Harry and Meghan's actions betray an undeniable craving for relevance. They continue to cling to their titles while decrying the institution that granted them. They've leveraged their royal connections to secure lucrative deals, all while insisting they've moved on from that life. The hypocrisy is staggering, and the public is no longer buying it. The British monarchy has persevered with quiet dignity, a stark contrast to the chaos surrounding the Sussexes. King Charles, often perceived as overly accommodating, has shown notable restraint in addressing the challenges posed by his rebellious son. However, it is Prince William and Catherine who have truly emerged as the principal symbols of the monarchy's future. William's unwavering resolve in the face of his brother's actions speaks volumes about his character. While Harry has chosen to publicly reveal personal grievances and levy accusations, William has opted to remain focused on his responsibilities and family life. His steadfast approach underscores why the British public has placed its trust in him. He embodies the strength, stability, and sense of duty that the monarchy urgently requires during this period of transition. On the other hand, Harry has launched relentless criticisms against the very institution that shaped his life. He has accused the monarchy of racism, neglect, and numerous other faults, all while disregarding his own role in its history. His attacks have been as impassioned as those of someone feeling deeply wronged, yet his narrative conveniently omits his complicity in sustaining the monarchy's legacy. Catherine equally deserves recognition for her poise under pressure and her steadfast support for William. Her grace and dedication have firmly established her as one of the most admired members of the royal family. Together, William and Catherine embody the monarchy's future rooted in tradition yet unencumbered by it. This vision has not gone unnoticed by the British public, whose confidence in them is both well-earned and enduring. In stark contrast, Harry and Meghan have become cautionary examples of the perils of prioritizing personal ambition over collective purpose. Their tendency to center themselves in the narrative, rather than serving a higher cause, highlights the risks of unchecked ego. Opting for the easier path, they have pursued fleeting notoriety at the expense of meaningful legacy. The British monarchy has weathered wars, scandals, and upheavals of far greater magnitude than the Sussex drama, and it will undoubtedly withstand this as well. What Harry and Meghan fail to understand is that the monarchy is far greater than any single individual. While their actions may dominate headlines, they lack the power to define or dismantle an institution that has stood the test of time. Ultimately, the greatest casualties in this saga are Harry and Meghan themselves. They have estranged their families, squandered public goodwill, and tarnished their reputations, all in pursuit of fleeting relevance. In stark contrast, the monarchy stands firm as a beacon of resilience and continuity, supported by the steadfast leadership of William and Catherine. What is perhaps most remarkable about this entire episode is the unshakable support of the British public for the monarchy. Despite the Sussexes' relentless attempts to undermine it, faith in William and Catherine remains steadfast. The public recognizes that they exemplify the values that make the monarchy worth preserving: a sense of duty, humility, and a sincere commitment to serving others. Meanwhile, Harry and Meghan, consumed by their grievances and superficial pursuits, are destined to fade into obscurity. The monarchy, however, will endure, carried forward by those who truly grasp its purpose and significance. In this, there is a certain poetic justice, a reaffirmation of the institution's enduring strength and relevance. And that concludes our in-depth exploration of the ongoing saga surrounding Harry and Meghan. From their tireless efforts to maintain relevance to the steadfast leadership of Prince William and Catherine, this narrative underscores a profound contrast between entitlement and genuine leadership. What are your thoughts? Are the Sussexes simply digging themselves into a deeper hole, or is there a chance for redemption on their horizon? Share your perspective in the comments below. We'd love to hear from you. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up to show your support, and don't forget to subscribe for more royal insights and controversies. Be sure to turn on the notification bell so you're always updated on the latest royal news. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time with more candid takes on the ever-unfolding royal drama. As for Meghan, if Harry has embraced the role of perpetual victim, she has positioned herself as the epitome of calculated ambition. Her transition from Hollywood actress to self-proclaimed humanitarian and feminist icon might have been commendable if it weren't so transparently self-serving. From the very beginning, Meghan positioned herself as a breath of fresh air for the royal family, a modern, independent woman poised to revitalize the traditional institution. However, rather than adapting to her role and making meaningful contributions, Meghan chose to portray herself as an outsider, casting her position as one of a misunderstood victim ensnared by royal protocol. Her inability to foster relationships within the family is as revealing as her apparent need to control the narrative. Meghan's grievances often center on her alleged mistreatment by the press and the palace, but the reality appears far less flattering. Her demands for special treatment, perceived diva-like behavior, and tendency to alienate those around her suggest a figure more interested in being admired than in truly advancing the causes she purports to champion. The most astonishing chapter in the Sussex saga was undoubtedly their infamous Oprah interview, a 2-hour spectacle that laid bare their grievances and cast aspersions on the royal family, igniting a media firestorm and further polarizing public opinion. The interview was a masterclass in self-pity and selective storytelling. From unverified accusations of racism to Meghan's emotionally charged confession, "I just didn't want to be alive anymore." It was a carefully orchestrated effort to portray themselves as victims while casting the royal family in a deeply unfavorable light. This calculated narrative not only sought to evoke sympathy, but also to shift blame entirely onto the institution they had willingly joined, leaving a trail of controversy in its wake.